People in a black tuxedo with one earpiece and dark glasses. Sometimes you can see them whispering something down their sleeve. This is the look most commonly associated with the people who protect the president. Their mission is to keep track of everything 24/7. At first glance, he looks like an ordinary bodyguard. But if you dig a little deeper, you'll discover that he can operate virtually every type of vehicle, handle every kind of firearm, speaks several foreign languages, is trained in multiple martial arts, and has nerves of steel. In such work, this is probably a key skill. The security of the President of the United States is considered one of the most prestigious, demanding and difficult in the country. Every year, tens of thousands of people apply to join this elite unit. For example, in 2011, almost 16,000 people applied for the training course, but a little less than 160 passed. Only 3 were eligible to run for president. The U.S. Secret Service is the agency responsible for protecting the president. The U.S. Secret Service appeared in the country in 1865, but its first tasks were completely unrelated to the protection of the head of the White House. After the end of the Civil War in the States, about a third of cash circulation was counterfeit. Therefore, Abraham Lincoln ordered the creation of a body that would help solve this problem. This is how the Secret Service at the Department of the Treasury appeared. Agents had police-like rights and collaborated closely with officers. However, instead of arrests, they were engaged in the seizure of illegal cash and its disposal. Only later, having established itself as a reliable tool in the fight against fraudsters, the department was given more powers. They became full-fledged investigators. However, at that time, no one thought about protecting the president.
Throughout our history, we have gone from investigators exposing cash fraudsters, and we continue to do so, up to the investigations of credit card fraud. Today, we are actively engaged in this and even monitor order in the cyber world. In this regard, we are the best of the best.
In addition to protecting officials, they are engaged in the protection of the U.S. economy. By the way, in 2008, the Secret Service's cyber department tracked down and arrested 11 people for online fraud. Among the detainees were even 3 Ukrainians. But let's return to the creation of the department. As we have said, it was started by Abraham Lincoln. Ironically, he was assassinated the very next night in the theater, but even then no one thought of guarding the president until the 25th head of the White House, William McKinley, was assassinated in 1901. It was then that the country's Congress put forward the idea of reforming the Secret Service and giving them powers to guard. A year later, in 1902, the department began to protect the heads of the White House on an ongoing basis, in addition to investigations and other duties. For more than a century and a half, the agency has developed so many techniques and tactics, faced so many challenges, that today it is considered to be the most powerful, even the most experienced structure for sure.
Most people believe Secret Service agents only protect the US president. Actually, we have 2 missions. The first is indeed the protection of the head of the White House, but the list also includes former presidents, their families, and former high-ranking officials. The second, investigation. The agents have investigative authority just like other law enforcement agencies across the country.
The first serious challenge to the department happened in November 1950, during the presidency of Harry Truman. The head of the White House was in the guest house. An agent guarded the entrance, police officers stood around the perimeter. 2 Puerto Ricans unexpectedly appeared and began shooting. Their target isn't an agent or cops, but Harry Truman, though he was unreachable. Despite the fact that 3 bullets were fired at Special Forces soldier Leslie Coffelt, he not only managed to hold back the offensive, he hit the attacker in the head with 1 shot, lying on his back, and shot the other. Later it turned out that the Puerto Rican survived, but the guard could not save himself. Coffelt died before the ambulance arrived from his injuries. One of the bullets pierced his lung. There was no chance.
Leslie Coffelt became the only agent to die in this position defending the president. Since 1951, in the United States, a ceremony of honoring the memory of Coffelt has been held annually near the president's guest house, in the same place where the agent died.
If Truman was saved, then John Kennedy, unfortunately, was not. How exactly he was killed, we have already told in previous programs. As for the Secret Service, experts and researchers are divided into two camps. Critics say that the president was killed because the agents were not vigilant enough, because there were multi-story buildings with open windows everywhere. Allowing the president to drive in an open car in the middle of a street surrounded by such buildings is nonsense. Supporters of the department, on the contrary, say that at that time methods for preserving presidential life were just beginning to be developed, so it is at least pointless to criticize agents here, because then there were neither technologies nor opportunities to get them. Kennedy was killed with a sniper rifle. After his death, the Secret Service thought about creating a counter-sniper unit, but we will talk about it later. In June 1968, after the assassination of John Kennedy, his brother Robert was also killed. For the United States, this event was a remarkable shock, which led to changes not only in the field of security, but also in the system of functioning of the Secret Service. In the same 1968, a law appeared that obliged agents to protect not only the heads of the White House, but also their family members, vice presidents, deputies, and other high-ranking officials. Moreover, they were guarded for life or until the subject of protection married. Then the protection falls and, as it turns out, guarding the current president is no longer such a difficult job. It is much more difficult to keep track of former officials or their children, because there is no spare backup shotgun in a school or restaurant, unlike a presidential plane.
I guarded Barack Obama's daughter. Mrs. Obama wanted her children to have a normal life, to go to various school competitions or basketball, and so on. I wanted to do everything in such a way that she could see that we have one goal, to do everything the best. Adolescence brings increased complexity for children. Imagine, would you like guys like me to follow you everywhere as a teenager?
Protecting the former president is challenging. I had Mr. and Mrs. Ford. 5 months in the Valley, 7 in Palm Springs. Constant, year-round travel. The military plane is no longer there. You need to make sure you have a civil plane ticket. Of course, this is first class, but you can't imagine what it is like when people start approaching the former president, taking pictures, shaking hands. God, it's so stressful. But it was a pleasure to work for Mr. Ford. He boarded the plane, sat quickly, and feigned sleep. And people no longer approached. They saw that Mr. President was dozing. A wonderful man.
In March 1981, after Ronald Reagan's speech at the Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C., he was attacked by a man, opening fire not only on Reagan, but also on his attendants. He failed to hit. Secret Service agent Tim McCarthy covered the president with his body. His bullet hit his rib, liver, diaphragm and lung. McCarthy survived and returned to work, not for the Secret Service, but the police. Although he received the title of hero, as did his colleague, who promptly directed the presidential car to the hospital to make sure that the president was unharmed.
All I saw was a flash from a weapon. At that time, I already knew exactly where they would shoot from. There was no doubt in my head. I immediately covered the president.
Reagan was saved, but McCarthy still believes that this is a job poorly done, because if they had tried hard, the shooter would not even have taken out a gun at all. However, agents really do not have the right to make a mistake. They need to act as quickly and confidently as possible. This is if we talk about working directly with the president. Preparation is even more difficult. Before the leader of the country arrives at any event, agents calculate everything to the smallest detail. First, intelligence reports the current state. Based on intelligence, agents draw up an action plan. There are dozens of scenarios for any unpredictable situation. Presidential protection protocol is constant. Whatever happens, the head of the White House must be covered as tightly as possible with body and try to put him in a limousine in order to evacuate him away from the epicenter of the threat.
All of their drills are very active. A key basic of learning to run is to move quickly, even when common sense suggests otherwise.
The requirements for agents are quite strict: good physical fitness, driver's license, knowledge of foreign languages, stress resistance, decency, responsibility, sharp eyesight, and even management. Applicants must be U.S. citizens aged 21 to 37 at admission. Military service isn't a requirement, though most agents have special forces backgrounds. They do not always join the ranks of the unit, but training is much easier for them, because they already know how to shoot or drive a car in extreme conditions. Many candidates went through Afghanistan, had business trips to Syria and so on before joining the Secret Service. In short, the guys are serious, but the presence of advantages does not mean guaranteed admission. Several times a year, all agents undergo retraining and must confirm their skills in practice.
One of the most important things for us is to make sure that we keep our people in good shape. They should have everything all the time, a training, provision, and it should not stop.
Mental health is the main requirement for admission. A Secret Service agent receives information and access to state secrets and private life of the country's highest officials during his work. Candidates undergo full medical exams, including psychological evaluations, therapy, training, tests, and polygraph, to prevent re-recruitment or information leaks. Prove your reliability to join the class. This is a step forward to your dream job, but not close to a full-fledged course. The profession of such a bodyguard gives excellent prospects in the future and offers a good salary. As for the United States, it ranges from $70,000 a year for beginners to $200,000 for experienced professionals.
It takes a very long time to prove that you are worthy of studying here. First, your history is checked, then permission to possess secret information is determined. Next, you need to pass a polygraph test and successfully pass it. Candidates can be proud of themselves only for the reason that they were allowed to study in the classroom.
The training course for bodyguard agents includes everything from shooting from different distances and different types of weapons, to the ability to drive a wide variety of types of vehicles. Motorcycles, ATVs, bicycles, sedans, trucks, buses, and even golf carts. At the same time, it is not enough just to have a driver's license. Cadets are taught extreme riding. On all of the above vehicles, you need to be able to make a police turn, and this is at a speed of almost 70 kilometers per hour. If it looks even more or less normal on a Ford sedan, then imagine that they have to repeat this maneuver on the bus. All this is done in order to quickly evacuate passengers from a dangerous place. You need to pass the exam so that the car never stops or slows down. The logic is quite simple: stopping a car is an easy target for an attacker.
You have won this place in the classroom by going through a long and difficult stage of various checks. You should be congratulated, and you should celebrate. And I hope you have already celebrated your introduction, because from now on, the time for fun is over. It's time to get down to business. Is it clear?
That is understandable that all cars are armored. This adds not only weight for transport, but also difficulties for the driver, because maneuvers become much more difficult. Drivers must be able to operate the Beast presidential limousine. It is unclear what is inside it, but judging by its maneuverability and the armor on its doors that was captured by journalists' cameras, hitting the target inside this tank on wheels will indeed be quite difficult.
All of our cars are bulletproof. This is logical, because we put people in them who are usually the target of intruders. Our job is to put them in a safe environment. Our safest car is the Beast. The president is carried in it. I can't go into details. They are classified and prohibited for disclosure. But this car can survive the war. If a battle breaks out, in which the Beast and the attacker, whoever he is, will take part, I assure you, the Beast will win.
The training course consists of two parts. The first 12-week case investigation training. The second is 18 weeks of special agent training. There, cadets train at a special training ground. This is a mock-up of a presidential plane and helicopter. They hone emergency maneuver skills for presidential life-threatening situations. And this is an exact copy of the White House. Proportions and distances perfectly match the original White House. Moreover, even the bushes are trimmed as in the presidential courtyard. All this so that the guards know every corner, notice the smallest details and be aware of everything that is happening around while the president is inside. By the way, the White House is guarded by more than 400 people. Security includes physical presence, in yard, at door, cyber defense to prevent overflights, dog handlers, and snipers. It would seem that the White House is an impregnable fortress, but everywhere, as it turns out, there are shortcomings.
On September 19, 2014, a man with a knife jumped over the barrier of the White House, ran across the lawn and even entered the building. He walked around the Central Hall and entered the East Room of the White House. Interestingly, he managed to enter the complex through an unlocked door.
Secret Service agents accompany the president wherever he is, even during visits to relatives or friends. However, the greatest presence of security is when attending various events. Counter-sniper agents have been positioned on rooftops near the White House chief since Kennedy's assassination. Usually these are not classic snipers, but marksmen, that is, people who know how to practice not only with a rifle, but also with other types of weapons. They can assault without healing the target for long. They can aim the front sight in a fraction of a second. Canine units, guards, and snipers are present in the crowd. Unlike guards, they do not wear tuxedos, but blend in with the crowd. At any critical moment, this fluffy car will rush into battle. And believe, this Belgian Shepherd knows exactly where to aim in order to completely neutralize the intruder.
We use dogs, dog handlers, various officers and train them to scroll through various scenarios in their heads. We must do this and we must prepare ourselves for the worst, because the bad guys also do not stand still, they are constantly improving.
As for the president's flights, he travels on this plane, although he most often uses the presidential helicopter Marine One. Movement strictly in a column. In the first there is a navigation and reconnaissance team, then the president, and then a crew with Secret Service agents. Pilots for such work are selected very carefully. Out of 70 pilots of the presidential team, only 4 are selected, who will serve throughout the year. They must take a special course and must be able to land the helicopter in such a way that the front and rear landing gear become exclusively at specific points. Units manage to pass such difficult tests. By the way, in addition to Secret Service agents, Marines are engaged in equipping the presidential turntable. They make sure that the fuel tank is always full, that the president has free access to landing, and that the sky is always clear, without drones or foreign flying objects. Marine One's equipment is classified. But helicopters of this type have electronic shields that allow them to avoid eavesdropping, can jam radars and have missile defense systems on board.
Usually, when we go somewhere abroad, we take the VH-60 with us. This is a smaller version of the Black Hawk helicopter. Despite a smaller cockpit, flight capabilities, comfort remain unchanged. It can be easily loaded onto a cargo plane with all the crew and equipment. The US is unique in its global support for its leader. We are also the only country that carries a special helicopter with it to transport the president.
Secret Service agents face criticism, like any intelligence service. Criticism does not concern work, rather punctures, because the department positions itself as the best and most responsible in the country, and comes across such trifles, the same 2014 and penetration into the White House. And in 2012, during Barack Obama's visit to Colombia, several agents took an armored car and went to a club there to order prostitutes. A year later, an agent was again caught drunk in a company car. The perpetrators were fired. But for the body itself, this is an extraordinary reputational blow. Agree that saving the president by covering him with body is, of course, cool, but letting an armed man into the White House. It's good that no one was injured then. Except for the runner himself, because he was pretty twisted.
Most of the success of the Secret Service is their images, their reputation. People think and believe that agents are flawless and never wrong. Yes, however, when something tragic happens to the most influential and important people not only in the country, but in the world, then this is exactly the problem of national security.
During and after the service, agents are prohibited from disclosing any details regarding the private life of politicians. However, journalists often manage to dig up enough information to interview and communicate with those who are retired. For example, about the life of Hillary Clinton, the agents mentioned that working with her was not just difficult, but unrealistically difficult. Not only did they have to hide what her husband was really doing from her, but they also had to endure her.
Hillary Clinton was described as the worst protection subject. She is so capricious towards agents. Her security detail was a nightmare for agents, and sometimes she'd hide them, yell at them, or simply not want to see them. They are there to protect her life, and she exploded on people who tried to help her.
The agents spoke much warmer about the Obama family and George Bush's wife, Laura. According to the Special Forces, they not only behaved culturally, but also often talked about various topics, drank tea, and went for walks. Politicians even gave them Father's Day cards and birthday gifts. And were politicians about whom they did not say anything bad, they just characterized them as somewhat eccentric. For example, this is how Joe Biden was described.
Biden has swimming pools at his homes in Washington and Elvington. His nude swimming offends female guards. They can only discuss it among themselves, no more. That's their job.
In short, the work of agents guarding the president is very difficult and dangerous, because who knows when you will grab a bullet. Although often this hard work is pleasant, fun, sometimes even interesting. Secret Service agents are responsible for the life of the president and the fate of the world. Since the United States is the most powerful country on the planet today, the assassination of the president of such a state will shake the whole world. To prevent this from happening, the presidential guards always watch over everyone and everything. Except for the fence in the White House.